He searched the mountains for 4 long years, and when he finally found his wife's frozen body at 8,000 meters, he also discovered the truth about her death. A family of mountaineers, a father, a daughter, and a son, are climbing a steep rock face when, suddenly, a backpack flies past them. It turns out a group of novice climbers above them has fallen, and their descent drags the Garrett family down with them. Now, 5 people are hanging from a single rope. The inexperienced climbers panic, causing only one anchor point to remain secured to the rock, and they eventually fall into the abyss. Annie struggles to reach the rock face to set another anchor, but the cam holding them begins to loosen. Realizing the danger, her father orders Peter to cut the rope, or the entire family will die. Annie desperately begs her brother not to do it, but Peter makes the impossible decision, and his father's body falls into the void. 3 years have passed. Since that tragic day, Peter has abandoned mountain climbing, and now only climbs to photograph wildlife. He works in the Lesser Himalayas, where one day his assistant slips down a hill and breaks a leg. Peter helps him return to the base camp, at the foot of K2. There, billionaire Elliot Vaughn has assembled a team of 40 people to conquer the summit. A nearby Pakistani army outpost constantly exchanges fire with Indian troops. Peter's sister, Annie, joins Vaughn's expedition. Unlike Peter, she has become a famous climber and takes on this dangerous mission with determination. A well-known entrepreneur arrives at the camp, followed by a media team documenting his attempt. The expedition attracts the attention of many experienced climbers. Skip Taylor tells Peter that the whole thing is actually a publicity stunt to promote Vaughn's new airline. Vaughn even paid professional climber Tom McLaren $1 million to guide him to the summit. Monique, a medical expert and administrator, immediately catches Peter's eye. That night, the group throws a massive celebration. It is revealed that Vaughn had tried to climb K2 4 years earlier, but the expedition ended in disaster. The party is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of Montgomery "Monty" Wick, one of the best climbers in the world, who warns everyone that the weather is worsening and that Tom McLaren has taken on too much responsibility. Meanwhile, an older climber has been wandering the mountain slopes for years, searching for his late wife's body. Annie believes her brother made the wrong choice 3 years ago. She thinks they could have saved their father and now climbs K2 in his memory, wanting to be the person he always wanted her to be. At dawn, the climbers leave the camp by helicopter. Kareem says goodbye to his brother, the guide. Peter notices the wind is starting to pick up, but the wealthy man trusts the computer, which predicts an 82% chance of excellent weather. However, McLaren detects signs of an approaching storm and insists on heading back. The billionaire disagrees and suggests they can reach a certain point and wait for the storm to pass there. Annie sides with Vaughn and convinces the others to continue the perilous ascent. Peter sees satellite photos and sounds the alarm. A massive storm is approaching, and they need to descend immediately. McLaren agrees, but the rich man plays on his pride, saying the storm will pass and that McLaren will regret backing down for the rest of his life, urging him not to lose the chance to become world famous. The team pushes on, but soon the wind grows stronger. McLaren finally decides to turn back, but by then it is too late. A violent storm engulfs the reckless climbers. Breathing becomes nearly impossible, and visibility drops to 0. Suddenly, Annie falls through the snow and plunges into a cave, saved only by the rope connecting her to the others. The others are not so lucky. A massive avalanche sweeps the mountain, burying the entire team. Only Elliot Vaughn and Tom McLaren manage to survive. McLaren suffers a brutal fall and injures his spine. Vaughn tries to contact base camp, but the signal barely penetrates the thick snow. Meanwhile, Peter comes up with the idea of sending Morse code signals, something their father taught them as children. Annie responds, confirming they are alive, but warns that reaching them will be extremely difficult. No one is in a rush to start a rescue mission. Survival at that altitude is almost impossible. Skip tells Peter that the victims have a maximum of 36 hours before pulmonary edema sets in. Only one man, Montgomery Wick, had climbed K2 in less than 24 hours, and they don't even know the exact location of the victims. Peter asks the Pakistani soldiers for explosives, and they agree to share their nitroglycerin. However, it is stored in poorly secured tanks. Some of the explosive liquid spills onto Skip's boots, effectively turning him into a walking bomb. That night, Peter tries to assemble a team of expert climbers willing to attempt a high-speed ascent of K2 with the nitroglycerin, but everyone understands how dangerous the mission is. Aside from Skip, only Kareem volunteers. He still hopes his cousin is alive. Unexpectedly, the two Rasta brothers also agree to risk their lives and join the rescue. Meanwhile, the survivors ration their water. As long as they have a little, they can avoid pulmonary edema. Once their supplies run out, they plan to melt ice with a small stove, and after that, rely on syringes filled with dexamethasone to stay alive. Edema will set in if we don't keep drinking. Peter and Skip estimate it will take them about 5 hours to reach the survivors, but for that, they need Monty Wick. He is the only one who knows how to ascend the mountain faster than anyone. The final member of the team is Monique, who agrees to join because Vaughn's representative offered $500,000 to everyone involved in the rescue operation, and she needs the money desperately. The team's first task is to find Monty. At first, he refuses to help, but when he learns that one of the survivors is billionaire Elliot Vaughn, he changes his mind. For some reason, the old man insists that Skip stay at the camp, claiming he doesn't trust him. The rest of the rescue team splits into pairs. Monique is paired with Cyril. Each pair will take a different route to the avalanche site. A helicopter lifts them as high as possible and hovers over the deep abyss. Without safety gear, Monique jumps onto the rocky ledge and helps the other climbers down as well. Suddenly, their equipment begins to fail. Peter and Wick are moments away from falling, and Monique is nearly hit by the helicopter's rotor. Montgomery manages to save Peter just in time, swinging him safely onto the ledge. Meanwhile, the billionaire casts a cold, almost mocking look at McLaren, whose condition is rapidly deteriorating, and wants to inject him with dexamethasone. But the wealthy man refuses, insisting it would be a waste. McLaren, according to him, is doomed anyway. He would die whether they use the medicine or not. The cynical man tells McLaren to accept his fate and not drag the others down with him. Later, Montgomery, who had been a friend of Peter's father, assures Peter that cutting the rope years ago was the right decision. Any climber would have done the same in his situation. As the hours pass, Annie's breathing becomes more difficult. It's time for her dose of dexamethasone. It seems the billionaire wants to keep all the syringes for himself, even though he still shows no symptoms. While Cyril waits for Monique to reach him, he carelessly leaves his backpack on the snow. It rolls down the slope, and when he tries to grab it, he loses his balance and slides at high speed. He digs his ice axe into the snow just in time to stop his fall, hanging over the abyss. Monique begins to edge toward him to help. She throws a rope toward his ice axe just as the block of ice beneath him gives way, and he falls into the void. Now she has to swing Cyril so he can grab the nearest ledge. He manages to cling to the rock, but the canister of nitroglycerin slips out of his backpack and plummets. The climbers scramble to escape the impending explosion. Cyril manages to climb back up and throws a rope to Monique, but he relaxes too soon. An avalanche triggered by the explosion sweeps him away. Now Monique has to reach the rope Cyril dropped. She makes a desperate leap toward it, fighting to survive. Meanwhile, deep in the cave, Annie struggles to reach a backpack she has seen on the opposite side. The supplies inside could buy them a little more time. Risking her life, Annie manages to retrieve the backpack, but she begins to cough violently as the fragile ice bridge beneath her feet starts to collapse. At that moment, an explosion goes off nearby, nearly killing her. Inside the backpack, she finds precious supplies, extra water, and 4 syringes of dexamethasone. Finally, she can inject the vital medicine into herself and McLaren. Meanwhile, Monique survives but dislocates a finger in the process. To reset it, Peter tries to distract her with casual talk. Malcolm tries not to think about his brother's death, but the pain overwhelms him. He falls to his knees and bursts into tears. Kareem suggests that Malcolm return to camp while he continues alone, but Malcolm refuses to give up. Gathering his courage, he stands up and moves forward. At the camp, the Pakistani team has mistakenly left the nitroglycerin tanks in direct sunlight, causing a massive explosion. Apparently, no one understood how unstable the liquid was. The climbers are ordered to immediately move the tanks into the shade, but there is no communication with Malcolm and Kareem.
You take the shoulder.
Realizing the danger, Peter approaches their position to warn them. The climbers quickly cover the tanks with snow and try to rest, but the nitroglycerin begins to leak again, reacting to the sunlight. Moments later, it detonates, blowing the team to pieces and burying Peter's group under an avalanche of snow. Following the explosion, the frozen body of a woman emerges from the ice. It was Montgomery's wife, whom he had been searching for unsuccessfully for 4 years. Around her neck hung her wedding ring, and beside her was an empty syringe case. She had been part of Elliot Vaughn's expedition 4 years earlier and died without receiving dexamethasone. The truth becomes clear. The billionaire had kept all the medication for himself back then, dooming the others. The revelation infuriates Montgomery. He had joined Peter's expedition for one reason only: to finally confront and kill Vaughn. That night, Annie manages to contact Peter by radio. She tells him to turn back, saying she can only hold on for 2 more hours and that the rescuers will never arrive in time. But Peter refuses to lose another loved one on the mountain. Coughing violently, Vaughn injects himself with dexamethasone to stay conscious. Then, in a chilling act of revenge, he fills a syringe with air and stabs McLaren with it, killing him within a minute. At dawn, Wick notices that Peter is gone. He realizes that Peter set off alone during the night to finish what he started. Annie notices the dead climber and finds an empty syringe nearby. At that moment, she understands everything. Furious, she attacks the scoundrel, but he brushes her off easily. Then she notices that part of the snow has collapsed and light is shining from above. Peter reaches the edge of the cliff, realizing the only way is down. The climber gains speed and leaps, managing to secure himself with 2 ice axes and cling to another rock. Meanwhile, Vaughn devises a way to mark their location. He cuts open the deceased McLaren's body with a knife and fills a bag with his blood. Along with Annie, he raises the bag and, once it emerges from the snow, detonates it using a flare. Blood splatters the entire area. With their last strength, Peter and Monique reach the summit and see the bloody signal. They blow a whistle and announce that an explosion is about to occur. Peter empties the nitroglycerin and detonates it with explosives, finally clearing the path to the victims. Vaughn is the first to strap Annie to the rope. They begin to pull her up, but the snow starts to collapse again, sending her back down. Her feet lose their footing completely, but Montgomery Wick manages to catch her just in time. The old man climbs down into the billionaire's cave, quickly realizing the truth. Vaughn tries to defend himself with an ice axe, but Wick disarms him easily. He doesn't kill him right there. Instead, he helps the injured Annie. However, another collapse leaves everyone hanging from a single rope. Wick doesn't have to ask Peter for anything. He already has his knife. No matter how much the rich man begs, the old man cuts the rope without hesitation, sending himself and his enemy into the abyss. In the end, only Monique, Peter, and Annie survive. Their father would have been proud.